Hi there. I am going to demonstrate how I made each of these peony arrangements. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 different types of peonies that I have that I purchased online at probably 3 different delivery services. And I'm going to talk about the difference in quality and price. So I've got 3 different types right here. This is absolutely my favorite one because this has these gorgeous, beautiful faces, but it's on a stem, just the one stem. So I basically just buy it and plop it into a vase. It's such great ROI. It was about $16.99 for 5 stems. And I did, when I purchased it, realize that it was on one stem. Now this is not natural. Peonies don't come like this. So I knew I was gonna put it in a vase that hid this. And that's why I bought this lovely beast. So this guy right here, this is filled. This is stone that's filled all the way through. So I can only tilt it to one side, okay? But it's gonna slide very easily into this vase. I love it. Let me make sure that it's fluffy. Bing, bang, boom, 2 seconds. And you have this beautiful arrangement, $16.99, and I think the vase was around $20, $25, something like that. And it actually came with 2 vases. I'll show you the other vase a little bit later. So that is why, oh, she slid all the way in. That is why I think out of all the peonies I'm about to demonstrate, this one is the most bang for the buck. Now, equally beautiful is this bad boy that I got from a completely different store. Their faces are very similar. Big, beautiful, realistic. But this stem, this is $5 a stem. So it's about, for 5 stems, it would be about $8 more than the previous bunch of peonies. And they put a lot of work into their stem. They were probably thinking that some people like very tall arrangements, maybe clear glass where you could see the stem all the way down. So they wanted to make it very realistic. I don't use glass. Glass is forbidden in this house because I'm afraid of breaking it. And so I was never gonna use this with the stem showing. So even though I was really interested to see how it compared facially to this bunch, and I did purchase 5 stems of it, it wasn't really worth my time or my money because I'm absolutely gonna just cut this down. And so I paid for a lot of stem that I'm not gonna use. But it is really pretty. And when it's cut down, I use it 2 ways. Bud base, easy breezy. Now you wanna be difficult because we have an audience. Okay, easy breezy. I cut another one. Where did I put it? Oh, I'll just use the same one for right now. The partner vase to the other one. I also used, and I actually think, which way is cuter? That way. And I kept the cut leaf. I'm just gonna use it to back it, kind of hold it up, press it forward, do what I want. And 1 single stem bud vase. Now, it would have been cheaper for me to just get a second bunch of these and just cut these because there is no real difference in the face, but there is a big difference in the stem. First of all, because these are not meant to be used with the stem showing as much. They're, let's call them more cheaply made, which makes them a lot easier to cut. A lot easier to cut. There's less wire, less plastic, a lot less that you have to go through in order to cut those. So if you look at this peony, this beautiful stem, you will find divots every few inches. And if you're gonna go ahead and cut this down, that's where you wanna go. That's gonna be less plastic to get through the wire. Now, because I know I'm gonna cut these, I'm not gonna bother with any part of that. I'm gonna come up here to where it's green. This is the thinnest part of the stem. It's gonna be the easiest for me to cut. And that's what I did here. There was still a lot of wire, but less plastic that I needed to get through. So that's why I did that. Now, this little beauty, I love. I've got, I don't know, a million bunches of these because they're 10 stems for about $16.99. And so they're really, really cheap. but you can tell they are cheap because they have a very skinny needle-like wire that is encased in tubular plastic that is not attractive. We would not want our stems to be seen at all. So they are best when used in a paved arrangement. Now, for me, that tube is gonna get in my way. So I'm gonna cut it off. And I do that by lightly squeezing in a circular motion all the way around. You'll have to go around a few times to get through that plastic. But by just being patient, which is not me at all, by just being patient and spinning it over and over again, there you go. You took off that plastic coating without having accidentally cut through the wire. And this needle-like wire is going to be really great for inserting into your floral foam. So that's what I like about that. Now, obviously these heads are a lot less realistic looking than this one, but they're still very, very pretty when you put them all together. I use these for my bowls of peonies and these for more singular statements. So the bud vase, the single vase like this. This I use a lot in arrangements of either mixed flowers or all peonies, but where there's going to be an abundance of them so that you're looking at the arrangement as a whole and not the single peony vase, and that's going to be the best bang for your buck. But between these three, I think this guy's my favorite, most realistic for the least amount of money. All right, and I'm going to show you how to make a bowl of peonies. Okay, so now we're gonna do bowl of peonies. It's gonna be with the peonies that I discussed with the needle-like wire. I love these because it's so much easier to insert them into the foam than with the tube around it. So I love this thin wire. Now, this foam lifts out. I don't like to use the foam unless it's got the plastic coating on it. I do not do well with the debris that is released. It makes me sneeze and awful things. So I like to keep it covered in the plastic. Now they do have rubber floral foam. If you were to look online, you'd be able to find that. It's a lot harder to work with, and it comes in different densities. So that's really important. If it's important to you not to work with actual floral foam and you want an alternative, the rubber is great, but read what kind of density it is. You want it as soft and pliable as possible. I made the mistake. I've worked with the soft pliable one, and it's okay. You can kind of limit you in what you can do with your stems because you do need to make cuts with a knife into it first before you insert your stems. So it's kind of a longer process. But the dense ones, the really dense ones, even cutting the knife doesn't really work. And I couldn't physically, personally, even cut it with a knife. It was a little too difficult for me. I just kept feeling like the knife was gonna fly out of my hand. So I'm stick with floral foam, which is another reason why I love these with the needle-like stems, because they're gonna puncture through that plastic, that layer of plastic, much easier, much better than if I had kept that plastic tubing on it. That I would have probably needed to cut with a knife where I was going first. Okay, so I am going to get my peonies now. Another reason why I like that little floral foam guy. It's because you can take it in and out whenever you want. So I'm going to demonstrate how I got here, how I made this one. I was going to say something, but I totally and completely forgot what it was. Okay. So bowl of peony is very popular these days. You will see it on the internet a lot, and they're very spendy. I saw one for like $1,800. That is too much, because a vase $20, floral foam I think it's something like 12. And then of course 10 stems of peonies for around $16, $17. $1,800 seems to me a little outrageous. My humble opinion. So I'm just gonna show you how you can very quickly DIY this. I remember the thought I had. Okay, so for me, I prefer to cut all my stems first. I do not like to cut stems. Cut a stem place, cut a stem place. So knowing that I'm making a bowl, I cut about 20 to 25 stems. And they should all be able to, once you insert them, go to about the halfway point of your oasis. Either, sorry, not oasis, floral foam. Either halfway here or halfway down. Halfway across or halfway down. And so you can cut, if you don't feel like cutting all 25 stems, because you know the stems don't grow back, that's fine. Maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 at a time. Because I'm impatient, like I said, and I find the cutting process slows me down if I'm doing it in between every placement. So I'm gonna place my first row, which is basically gonna be a concentric circle, flush against my vase. It's gonna be flat against my vase. I'm gonna insert the stem into the foam until I feel that I have touched the lip of that vase. So the initial insertion, because I'm going through plastic, is a little bit like a stab, like a puncture. Okay. That one was actually probably a little on the short side. I'm gonna fan out my petals. Sometimes they don't want to go. And I want to place it overlapping, petals overlapping other petals, not next to it, not petal to petal, because that you're gonna find you're gonna get holes. So you'll be able to see your mechanics. So petals on top of petals. Okay. Puncture, there we go. And I'm gonna do it all the way around, concentric circles. You'll see too that I have my phone raised above the lip of the vase, and that is because it gives me options. So I can go in directly from the lip of the vase with the stem. I could go downward with the stem. I can even go a little bit upward if there's foam up above, right? When it is below the lip of the vase, you only can go in one angle, and that's downward. So that's why I like to keep mine raised, to give me options. And you can see I'm overlapping my petals. The pieces, the peonies are very close together. And that's gonna hide my mechanics best. See how even though I'm fluffing her out, she naturally wants to fluff back in. So if I were not overlapping, eventually it's possible she'd curl back up, and then you'd be able to see my mechanics. And whether we have real flowers or fake flowers, we do not want to show our mechanics. That is one thing my friend Evie and I will look for when people are posting pictures online. I can see her oasis. Sorry, floral foam. That's a big no-no. I went to my brother's wedding, and I was on a call with one of my clients from my job when he called to ask if I could help with flowers for his wedding. So I was not able to take that call, and when I called him back, the flowers had already been done. So they had already gone with a florist. And when I went to the wedding, first thing he says to me, "Don't say anything about the flowers." Like I would, I wasn't going to. But for some reason, still to this day, cannot explain it. I had my tools with me when I was there at the wedding, And he left me alone for about 20 or 30 minutes. And when he came back, he looked around the room and he said, "You changed the flowers, didn't you?" I wouldn't say I changed them per se. What I did was move them a tad and then hide all the mechanics. So yeah, I'm big on hiding mechanics. Okay, the reason why I picked this little guy and why I'm putting him here. Okay, so I'm deciding right now how tall I want my piece. Do I want it to be flat, completely flat and paved like an Elizabethan collar? Do I want it to be way up here so by the time we finish our piece, it's gonna look like a 1970s deodorant roll-on? That's all I see when I see the really pointy egg-like, oh, cone heads. It does kind of look like the cone heads too. So I don't want either one of those. I don't want completely flat, but I don't want Dan Aykroyd either. Well, I mean, I want Dan Aykroyd, but not the cone heads character. And so, like Ghostbusters Dan Aykroyd, zesty. That's good stuff right there. So I'm just gonna create a little mound, make it a little flatter. Again, I'm more of a pave girl than anything else. So for me, I like smaller mounds, like the Shakira song. Isn't there a song where she talks about small mounds? I don't know. Okay. So now I've got my center, my dead center, my tap dead center. And I can't say center without saying tap dead center like Marissa Tomei from My Cousin Vinny. And now basically all I'm gonna do is connect this level to this level. And hopefully I'll be able to do it in one peony. Feels maybe too tall for one peony. That's what I'm really trying to do. I'm not trying to use up all my product. Okay, so I put it down a little bit lower. So I'm now trying to connect from here to here. Now the smart thing to do is just to create another concentric circle. But if you're gonna do that, okay, if I put it here and do my concentric circle directly above this line, right, head, directly above this head, I might end up with gaps. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start my line of concentric circles here in between two heads and then just overlap. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing, just overlap until we're done. And hopefully we won't have to do another row because I did it on the last one. So here's hoping. All right, that seemed to connect it. Okay. Yeah, I connected with my top one. Okay, so in between, overlap. In between, I'll try to do it from, you know, I mean, I'm gonna try to do it backwards, but not with this stem because the stem I can tell is wonky. So, step one, fan out. Step two, aim for in between these two bad boys right here, these two heads. It's a little hard doing it backwards, so we're gonna aim for right here. Ooh. Did I do it? I did. Continue to make our concentric circles. It feels like the phone moved a tad. Keep going. Okay, aim in between two heads. Keep going. I have made it all the way around. Okay, but I'm gonna tilt this toward you, and you can see I've got some holes on the tippy top. So I'm gonna just fill in, not huge holes on the tippy top, where the petals are pretty much covering it. But as I mentioned before, sometimes after you fluff them, they tend to want to bend back. So the second they bend back, I'm gonna see some oasis. And that is not like how I like to start my day, so I'm just gonna add a couple on the tippy top, where I think it is most likely to benefit me. What is it hitting me? That is unusual. All right, I'm gonna have to cut. I hope I have the strength to cut. It's a little embarrassing. I used to be able to cut right through these. No idea where that landed. Baby, be careful, there's a stem. It was a run by stem. Run by fruiting? That doesn't work on that one. Okay. Let's spin it around. She's looking good. I found another hole. Okay. So this is how, again, I cheat if I don't have the strength to cut my stem. I just bend it in half as close and tight as possible. But when I do that, I am gonna need to pre-make a hole because that won't puncture. And so I'm going to take a peek and look at that pre-cut hole, push it in, try to keep the petals out. It's very different working with silk peonies than working with real ones. You can just grab the head and shove, and you can't do that, although I've been accused of doing that with the fresh ones as well. It used to make people kind of upset. Okay, and that is our bowl of peonies. Nice and even bowl of peonies. So, like I once told the kids, the only way to make a circle is a circle. So if you want something symmetrical and round, just keep making concentric circles until you get to the top. And then on the top, you just look for those holes, put your peonies where you see a hole, and you got it. And that is it. I'm hiding behind my arrangement. Okay, so I also wanted to talk a little bit about something about how to make DIY that was just a tiny bit more complicated than the bud vases I showed earlier. So I am going to demonstrate how I made this. Now, when I say I'm a fangirl, I am not referring to New Kids on the Block. That's a lie, yes I am. But it also means that I love fans. Whether fresh cut or silk, these are some of my favorite items to work with. I absolutely adore fans. So I'm going to just make an arrangement that's a little bit more distinct, a little bit bigger. And that's one of the things that I love about fan leaves, is that makes any arrangement bigger. Without a ton more money. So I'm going to show you two ways of placing your fan leaves. So you can cut, like I did this one, perfectly measured to your vase, the exact size that you would need for it to hit the bottom of the vase. I found it very difficult. I had to use a floral guillotine in order to do it. They're very hard to get, but I don't really have the strength to cut through this much wire anymore. So I had to use the floral guillotine, which I will not ever use on camera, because should something go wrong, I ain't trying to scar anybody for life. So that's why this is pre-cut off camera. So that's one way of doing it. Now this is cheating. So what I did is I had one that was a little bit longer that was pre-cut for another vase, and I want to use it in this vase, but I don't want to cut it. I want to keep it so that I can transfer it back to the other vase if I want. So I just folded it in half. And in order to do so, you have your bend right here. In order to straighten that, you just press your thumbs on that bend. Now you're back to being straight. And same thing when you bend it, you use your finger, you put it in the spot where you want the bend to be, and then you just fold it over there, okay? And now I have shortened my stem without cutting it. So, how I place my fans, everybody does things differently. I never do height when it comes to my fan leaves. So I very seldom will you see me have a giant fan leaf way up tall with the stem showing. I'm not a fan of stems, I guess. All right, so I sort of placed mine like Dumbo ears. This one's a little more upright. This one is actually holding it all together because it was bent, which makes it fatter, so it's really inserted well in that base. This one's just sort of lying there hoping that gravity doesn't pull it out. And that's another reason why I really love that bend. Okay, so for me, I've got my little Dumbo ears going, a little Dumbo action. Then I'm going to stick this one. It's going upright, and I kind of let them tell me a little bit where they want to go, just so that I don't keep bending and bending. So this one, as you can see, I decided that I wanted her completely face forward, so I'm just going to show you how easy it is to straighten bend. Put my thumb where the bend is, and now she's straight, and I can do that all the way down to straighten her out. Okay, and when I want her bent, I'll just put my finger back there and bend it. But I'm going to show you how you can also use the vase to bend it. Okay. So I think this is relevant. I'm going to try to do this backwards. Okay, so we have a lot of action going on here, a lot of foliage from this guy, and I'm just going to insert it into the vase sort of through the foliage and get it in sort of any way I can. Okay, and now I'm going to use the vase edge to help me bend it into place. All right, we'll just need it to see where we were. Here we go. Got my thumb near the edge of that vase, and I've got my index finger at the top, at the head, right there. Okay, so thumb and index finger, and I'm using the vase to bend it over the edge. And now it should hopefully be where I wanted it to be. Yes. I will have to see in the playback, but I think it looks pretty much exactly like how I had it before I took it all apart. So there you have it. It's just a little bit more ornate than when they would be in there by themselves. All right.